Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you may be. This is the overnight. I'm Dan Foss, and joining me tonight is Slowpoke Taylor. How you
Hello.
doing this morning?
Doing pretty good.
And Guns and Barbecue.
Good morning. How are you, Foss?
I'm doing pretty good. So this evening, tonight, whatever, thought we'd talk about disabilities and gun ownership. And unfortunately, Wheeled and Well Armed, I don't think is going to make it. But we'll soldier on. So I was poking around the interwebs, and there is some information out there for handicap shooters or disability, but there's not a lot. And if you type in disabled shooter, you get a lot of mental health stuff. But as I'm not in that world, I'm not sure if there might be a bunch of organizations that I just don't know about. So do either of you know of organizations?
I don't know of any organizations in particular. I've never really looked into it.
Likewise, I need to look into it more so because not that I'm looking for help for myself, but I would like to find something where I can try and give back and help others that are suffering some of the difficulties that I am. I hate to say it, but Patron in the Dark, he's been a wealth of information for me on just being blind in general. Often he gets mad that I haven't even received any formal training for like using my blind cane, let alone being a blind shooter.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was hoping to do with this chat is, if somebody has or dealing with a disability, maybe we can come up with some information or resources to help, or if later down the line something happens and you end up with a disability, or you just know somebody that's disabled, you can maybe point them in a direction. There's we'll start with Guns and Barbecue. If you don't know, is mostly blind. You both clinically and legally blind?
Well, I talked to my neuro-ophthalmologist, I think it was 6 months ago at my last appointment with him, and I always meant to ask him, you said I'm clinically blind, doc. What's the difference? And so legally blind is, a very wide gambit of being able to see. There's people that are legally blind who can still drive.
I had a friend that was.
Yeah. My vision's so bad that I have finger vision at about 3 to 6 inches. So if you held up fingers in front of my face and waved them around where they're not in the blind spots for me, they'd have to be about 3, maybe 6 inches if I was lucky away from my face before I could clearly tell you how many fingers. And so I asked the doc, what's clinically blind? And all it is a technical term that lets people in the medical field know that, I need assistive devices such as a seeing cane.
And Taylor, you have MS and neurological muscular disorder.
Yeah, it's a form of muscular dystrophy. We haven't quite pinpointed what specific one it is yet, but it negatively affects a lot of muscles. I have a lot of weakness in my biceps and in grip strength.
Does it so both say, like if you're holding up a weight, the weight itself, can you hold steady, or is there a little bit of a movement while you're trying to hold steady?
I can't hold just my arms. If I try and hold my arms straight out, they shake.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, barbecue, you carry, um, and where you're in Pennsylvania,
Yes.
and you open carry, or do you? I know you open carry. Do you
Yeah.
sometimes conceal carry? Can you? I don't know the state laws for.
Well, here in Pennsylvania, we're what we call a open carry state, so you don't need a handgun permit or anything to openly carry your firearm. Only if you want to conceal. However, we're under a state of emergency for the opioid epidemic, which has been going on for I think like 6 years now. And because we're under a state of emergency, technically you do need a concealed carry license to open carry right now because of the state of emergency. Excuse me, I brain farted on you there, Foss.
That sounds like BS.
Yeah, when it rolled out, I told everybody, I was like, all this is backdoor gun control. I was like, and here we are 6 years later. They haven't lifted the state of emergency. For what reason?
And Taylor isn't quite old enough to carry yet. Coming up soon.
Relatively soon.
Relatively soon. If and when the time comes, do you think you'll conceal carry, open carry?
Probably conceal carry.
And that's the way I carry most of the time, is concealed carry.
Just for pragmatic reasons in a really bad area.
Well, nothing wrong with that. So, with you have to bear with me a little bit. I had it planned out a little different because I was expecting one more person, but it's all right. So when you go to the range, now for the two of you, it's going to be a little different because you have different challenges that you deal with. But when you go to the range to practice, do you just straight practice, or do you work on how to be better with your disability? Does that question make sense?
Yeah.
So barbecue, what do you think?
So honestly, I've only been to the range, I want to say twice in the last year and a half, almost 2 years. This coming October, maybe end of September, will be 2 years since the first time that I've been to the range. So like I said, getting to the range for me is difficult because I've got to find somebody to, one, who is willing to take me, two, who isn't going to shoot up all my ammo. Yeah, obviously I'm not looking for a free ride or anything. I'll offer gas money, all that, but somehow it seems like a lot more ammo gets shot than I planned on, and it's not by me, unfortunately. But when I do go, since I don't get to go as often as I'd like, I just go and I just let rounds go because I'm just getting excuse me. I'm just getting to shoot it, I'm having fun. I'm not focusing on let's draw from a seated position and go through this scenario, that scenario. I'm just getting to have some fun and blow off some stress and shoot some rounds downrange.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. How about you, Taylor?
Well, for me, a lot of it is just getting guns that work with the problems I have. So usually I try and get guns that are relatively light so I can hold them up and have to have larger controls, not hard to charge, things like that.
What
So
about
you go ahead.
what about like trigger weight? Is there a maximum trigger weight that you?
I found that trigger weight doesn't bother me too much. Now, I'm sure I couldn't use one of the Glocks they use in New York with like a 20-pound trigger, but I can shoot double action 22s, and that's about as heavy as they get. But a lot of it has to do with the weight of the firearm, because most of the problems are in my biceps. So, like, my AR-15, I keep that thing bare. I don't put any quad rails or doodads or gizmos on it. I have a flashlight and that's about it on it. And then my other rifles, if I taking them out for fun, like my muzzleloader or my Mossberg 500, something like that, I can hold it up for a couple shots to get the itch out for those rounds, but they're a little too heavy to shoot for too long.
So this is the link that G-Webs dropped out there for brace. Would something like that be helpful, or would would kind of get in the way for you?
I've tried braces, and honestly, it's just extra weight for me because I have a hard time holding the gun up at all. The angle isn't that bad. I can handle a little bit of torque on my wrist, but maybe like a Glock, I can hold a Glock up, but I've tried shooting a GP 100 with I think it had an 8-inch barrel on it. Couldn't keep the nose up on it at all.
Have you ever tried like a shooting stick or anything while you're at the range to help steady a longer barrel like that?
Usually when I'm shooting a long gun, I'll do either a kneeling or sitting position. Aside from my AR-15, those are nice because they're light enough. I can use the cuff sling and fire it from the shoulder. I will say that if you have strength problems, try cuff sling on a rifle because it takes a lot of the weight, or redistributes a lot of the weight.
I'm not familiar with the cuff sling. Oh, are you talking kind of like is there a one specifically for shooting, or just like the kind of medical cuff sling?
Oh, there's a shooting cuff sling.
That's not what I want.
The specific sling I use is the Magpul RLS. So it's a regular 2-point sling, but it's got a little slider on it that you can use as a cuff sling too.
Oh, I got you.
I love the thing too. It was only $20, brand new.
Yeah, here's it's real simple sling. If that's the right one. Is that the one that you're talking about?
Oh yeah, it's dead simple. I just used the mounts that came with the rifle and it works. See how he has it wrapped around his arm?
Yeah, so it's like the um, old military slings.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that would. I think that would be useful for anybody.
But yeah, one of the big downsides of it is I can't really fire many full caliber rifles from the shoulder. Like a M1A, M1 Garand,
Yeah,
basically anything above 5.56. Even AKs are a little too heavy. But I found one gun or two in particular that are very good for a lighter full caliber gun are the lever action rack and pinion rifles from Henry and Browning make them. The Browning BLR and the Henry Long Ranger. They sell those in calibers from 223 all the way up to 300 Win Mag. And they weigh under 7 pounds for most of them.
I was trying to find a good picture, but the Henry site doesn't have a real great picture. But here, let me show. Do. That one there. There we go. So these are the Henry ones that you were talking about.
Yeah, they use a rack and pinion system, so they have a rotating locking lugs in there. And they use detachable box magazines. But
So
I like these because since I have grip problems, I can't work a bolt action. Maybe the Savage Impulse I'll be able to shoot, but I can't work a bolt action unless it's a cock on close like a Enfield.
I've never shot a lever action. Does the action feel different, or does it feel basically the same?
It's kind of like power steering with these versus manual steering. The torque is a little different on them, and the throw is a bit shorter on these.
Oh, that's cool. It gives you more option especially if you like lever action.
Oh yeah, I love lever actions, all Wild West guns. Some of my favorite guns are the old single shot 4570s.
Yeah, I would like to have one someday, just in 357. A Henry with the brass receiver. They're pretty. But so in the description, I put links to some of the pages that I found when I was kind of poking around. Some for equipment, some for organizations. There's like the IBSA International Blind Shooter Association, where it's um, uh, competition for shooting for blind people, and pretty cool. They use electronic device that'll beep when you're get on target. It's I think there might be a few other things with that link. I don't remember exactly what was in each one. And there's some for equipment, for like wheelchair attachments, um, for hiding your gun, or I think I put one that has stuff for hunting, attachments to help with, so you can mount a rifle to your wheelchair. Like I said, there's not a lot of organization stuff, but if you're disabled, I looked through most of the states. They all have a disabled classification for their hunting licenses. So you can either get a discount, or some or most will allow you to hunt from a vehicle, like a four-wheeler or something like that, if you have that. I think California it looked like it was just disabled veterans, but I'm not exactly sure. I know it mentioned disabled veterans, and I didn't see anything else, but I was kind of flashing through so I could hit a bunch of different states. And I didn't link the states because that would be a lot of links.
Do you mind if I address a question in the chat?
No, go ahead.
DJ Playnice says, have you discussed the palpable potential of a 2A victory keying off of braces based on an ADA focus? I have some very strong opinions on this, actually. Braces were originally made for the purpose of shooting with strength problems, but most braces today, you cannot argue from a design standpoint that they aren't a stock with a strap on it. There's a reason people have been making them that way, and that's because it's an SBR without the paperwork a lot of the time. I think going the ADA route and arguing that braces are protected but stocks aren't is going to shoot ourselves in the foot pretty bad in the long run. I think suing for SBRs under an ADA focus would be a much better thing. Especially myself, I've tried braces, they don't work. But what does work is an SBR for me. But yeah, if it was put up in court that braces are legal because they're separate from stocks, and they could be using that to uphold the NFA, which we don't need to give them any more precedent than they already do.
I kind of agree with you that the whole fight about the braces isn't because of the ADA, isn't because of disabilities. But I don't have a problem with someone with disabilities fighting for it. But if I go in and say, well, and argue that, it would be disingenuous. But that's kind of why I don't argue it that way. But there are people who legitimately it's a benefit to them.
Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with braces. I think braces are a wonderful thing for people that need them. But we need to stop pretending that the SBA 3 is a brace.
Yeah, I had a friend that he contacted SB Tactical because he had a question about the SB3, whatever. And they asked him, how are you going to use it? And he told them how he was going to use it. And they told him how to use it in the way that he wanted to use it, which possibly differed from what a brace was supposed to be. We'll say that.
Well, yeah. Everyone I know that buys those kits with the SBA 3, I was considering getting a kit with an SBA 3, but just because it's not that far off from a stock, I think arguing it they are different makes sense, especially arguing for braces that are designed to be arm braces. Those should be protected as well as SBRs, because there are people who are disabled like myself that don't benefit from a brace but do benefit from an SBR. And I fail to see how an SBR is any more or less concealable than a pistol in any meaningful way, and how they're any more deadly.
That I agree with your stance. When you read what the ATF says in their reasoning, that the brace makes it more deadly, it's nonsensical. And I agree with you that the NFA is the dragon to slay. But I'm willing to take a victory wherever we can take a victory.
I definitely get that. I say defend braces for the sake of braces, but don't try and argue that there's something they're not.
But is it a victory if we argue, or if we win our victory on the back of, they're made for people with disabilities, so then they say, fine, you can have them, but you're gonna have to prove that you have the disability, and you're gonna have something signed by a doctor, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I say that's an even bigger loss than where we're at right now.
Also in the description, there's a link to leave comments for the pistol braces on the ATF website. Go and comment if you haven't commented. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to write a book, just plain and simple. If you oppose it, just say you oppose it. The more voices that oppose these things, the better. So it'll be harder for them to overlook, a million comments rather than 50,000 comments, 60,000 comments, whatever it is.
I will say with the new brace chart they're putting out, a lot of those points are points they already use. I personally, I'm not a lawyer, but I would suggest trying to follow the chart, even if it does not get published, if you anticipate someone having a problem with you, because all it takes is for one sheriff that doesn't like you or anything along those lines for them to say that your pistol is a rifle or a short-barreled rifle, because the law is extremely vague for a reason, is to get people caught up in it.
Well, that's what it tends to be. The vagarity is so they can apply it in whatever way they feel they need to apply it. But I don't want to get too far into braces, so we don't get too far off track. But no, I agree with you. I agree with you. One of the websites that I found was, hopefully I didn't. Yeah, here it is. It's got a few different links within the page. But so there's some for equipment, and then archery. I didn't look at the clothing, so I don't know what the clothing thing is. But hunting, fishing, off-road wheelchairs. There's some really cool tracked ones that'll take you anywhere. There's one which I didn't look up the picture, but for like bird hunting, where it actually sits up. So you go from a seated position to where it puts you into more of a standing position for shooting. And one of the links I saw, I found was interesting was this one, G line, and it uses your phone and magnifies what your scope sees, so you don't have to bring your scope up to your eye. So if you physically can't raise your rifle that far, or if you're in a wheelchair and you have your rifle mounted, you can use your phone as your scope. I thought was neat. So that's,
It is very cool. May I make another suggestion along those lines? Have you heard
Sure.
of the ATN scopes?
I don't think so.
ATN is an electronic scope company. They have standard day and night vision scopes. They also have thermal scopes, but they have a lot of cool tech features on them. You can live stream, you can record, you can do whatever with them. There's also, you can get a rangefinder attachment for them. And what's really cool about that is you can use your rangefinder and it will move the reticle on the screen to adjust for windage and elevation for you.
Here. Let me do something real quick. Just gotta find. So you can drop links out there now, Taylor.
All right. Is YouTube going to get mad if I drop a link to the scope?
No, go ahead. That way I don't have to try and find it. And same for barbecue. There we go. I either made you a moderator or I banned you. I don't know.
Either one works.
So I was wondering, for self-defense, do you practice guns and barbecue? Or how do you practice? What do you practice?
Do a lot of dry fire practice at home, just drawing from my holster and going through those steps. Any self-defense situation is going to be very close quarters by the time I get to a point where I can identify that somebody has a weapon or something like that. And obviously, you don't always have to have the person have a weapon, but that's going to be ideal, obviously. So for me to make that identification, like I said, they're going to be very close. At that point, I could probably just reach out and literally touch them with my firearm. They'd be so close. So any shooting that I do at the range is really just based off of muscle memory. I'm hoping to get to a friend's rock pit where I get to go shoot every blue moon and shoot some reaction targets, the ones that you throw out on the ground and they're shaped like a spear and a box and things like that.
They kind of roll around.
Mm-hmm. I've found that the movement helps me pick up the targets as they're tumbling. And the first time that I realized this, I was actually just shooting a water jug. And I put 6 or 7 shots in a row into it as I was skipping it across the ground. And it started off at probably 10 yards or so and ended up, I was told, made it out to about 25, maybe 30 yards by the time I put the last round in it. And I don't know if it was just luck or what was going on there, but I did notice that, like I said, with that movement, it helped me keep track and with my vision, I can't even pick up the front sight. So everything is being done with muscle memory there.
How about you, Taylor? Do you work on any of that now, or?
Well, the small bit that I do work on, since I don't have a handgun yet, it's mostly just anything around home defense or medium range shooting with a rifle. Try and work on finding that. Trying to work on getting to where I can hit precisely first before I try doing anything real fast. I don't get to go to the range real often, but I've started to where I can keep a quarter size group at 50 yards.
Uh-oh. I think Taylor's internet dropped.
That is no bueno.
Come back to me. So, yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring for you, barbecue. Is it would most scenarios, like would probably be you're sticking your gun in their belly.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I actually chose to carry a revolver. Granted, I've always been a revolver guy, not so much on semi-autos, but the idea that I'm going to be in those close quarters, and if I actually did press a firearm into somebody's body, well, we all know, or at least the majority of us know, if there's a new person out there, they may not know, but if you press a semi-auto into somebody's body, what, quarter inch takes that gun out of battery, and it's not going to fire.
Yeah.
So I mitigate that issue with a revolver.
I tend to.
So you were. Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say you were saying.
I tend to run with revolvers too. When I do try and shoot handguns with somebody, I tend to prefer the revolvers. That way, I don't have to rack a stiff slide or anything. Certain slides I have a lot of problems with, like the Ruger LCP. I can't rack that gun, especially not if I needed to, or a lot of the blowback 380s. I just can't do those.
Yeah, those are pretty tight. Have you tried the M&P EZs, like the EZ9?
I have not seen those. As soon as I can see one in the store, I'm going to try it because it seems nice. I just wonder if they have a problem with limp wristing malfunctions too, because that's a problem.
Oh, that I don't know. I haven't shot the. God, which one? I shot one of them. I think I own one of them. I haven't shot it yet. I have the 380 easy, but I haven't taken it to the range yet. God, I don't remember if I shot the 380 or the 9. I know I've racked the 380. The one in the shop was really easy, but I think from other people doing it, I can rack it with one finger. The brand new one, I still can, but it's a little stiff.
There's actually another 380 that takes less force to rack than the M&P. Have you seen those SIG P238s? They're
I
little
haven't
tiny.
haven't seen one up close.
They're little tiny 1911-ish guns. Springfield also makes a copy of it, the 911. But since they're locked breech 380s, they have their spring weight's pretty light, because most 380s are blowback, but when you move to lock breech, you don't need a lot of spring weight.
Yeah.
So if anybody is looking for something bigger, like a 45 ACP, that's really easy to rack, I know I've talked about them a lot on some other shows. It's the Bull Armory 1911 that I am just head over heels for at the LGS right now. But you guys were just talking about the Smith & Wesson EZ, and the one thing I'd always hear people say, oh, you can rack it with a finger. You know, you just take your normal grip and then you take a finger at the front of it and you can rack it. That Bull Armory 1911, I can do the exact same thing. It's that easy to rack.
Do you think it's that easy to rack just because it's such a... Was it just a very smooth gun, or...
It's a very smooth gun, but I think they might have put some sort of buffer or something in there as well. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't taken it apart or anything to see exactly why. And I was actually talking to my LGS owner about it, and he's kind of worried, you know, that it could have some feeding issues or something because it is so easy to rack. And you're talking about a 45 ACP, but he's sold about 5 of them now, and everybody that's come back said they run flawless. I'm waiting to get my own so I can hopefully get it to the range shortly after I do get it to put it through the paces. But I could not believe that, you know, I could rack it just like I would be trying to rack an easy.
So, does either of you consider using like a laser, something like that?
I've thought about a laser, but the dot would be too small for me. It would definitely have to be a green laser if I did. I'd be interested in a company making a blue laser because blue seems to be the color I see best. Green would be second, but yeah, the dot is just so small at any distance. I don't think I'd be able to pick it up.
Yeah, I think X Adam is talking about the easy here.
From what I've seen too, I've heard and seen online that the P320 is fairly easy to rack.
Oh, I've never shot one.
Because that's another problem I have with the grip strength. Some people with grip strength problems, they have to have either a really big grip. I tend to need guns with a smaller grip. So like, especially because I have smaller hands too, I could shoot a Glock 43 way better than I can a Glock 19 just for the fact that I can actually hold on to it.
What about like a 1911? I'm outside of the weight of the 1911. How does the grip for you?
The 1911, it's actually stock grips are too big. If I get like slim aluminum or G10, they're bearable, but it's still pretty uncomfortable. The 1911s, I like the 1911-esque guns, like the Star Model BM. Those have a very comfortable grip. Along with the company that shall not be named, they manufacture the EMP, which wonderful gun. It's 1911, but scaled down slightly to 9mm. It's a lot closer in size to BM or something like that. And the image I use for my profile here is a Sigsar P225. Those are nice. I was going to buy one of these for my first carry gun, but they got discontinued, so I probably won't be able to afford them once the prices jump up on them.
One other question I had along the lines of self-defense is home defense for Guns Barbecue and Taylor. Do you practice around the house? You know, moving. You know, like if you have to go from room to room or anything like that, or just like dry fire practice?
As for myself, I've got 3 young children that live with me full time. So at the end of the night, it's always making sure we get everything cleaned up, things like that. Because if I were to have to go through the house because of a bump in the night, I need to be able to make sure that my walkways are clear, things like that. And fortunately, I live in a trailer, so it's pretty much straight shot. I got 2 hallways, and I don't have too much to worry about. But I know generally where everything is, and I actually had a incident happen. Well, I shouldn't call it an incident. I had a bump in the night, we'll say, happen just this past week, where I woke up the kids and said, "Hey, here's my phone." I don't know what that was. And, I waited around a little bit to see if anybody was gonna come down the hallway or anything, but it got to the point where, all right, I'm not hearing anything. I'm gonna have to go see what that was, and I grabbed my AR with a light on it, and again, knowing the layout of my home, went out with the light off until I planned on encountering an area where I need to turn it on or anything like that. So I guess more so it's just knowing the layout of my home.
Is that anything that you look at right now, Taylor, or is that stuff that you're going to deal with later?
I sometimes when the kids aren't home, I'll practice light discipline in a dark house in case the power is out or something. But most of the time, it's keep the lights on in the house. Unless someone shuts it off, then you have a flashlight. Because I've found that light is the best deterrent for criminals. We had someone try and break into our house when I was a small kid. I turned the porch light on, they run off. It's simple as having some lights you can turn on from your phone can deter a criminal.
I keep lights on. So there is no absolutely dark place in this house. I need to be able to see, even if it's just low light. I don't like not being able to know what's in the room.
Yeah, I always keep a flashlight on me, not a phone flashlight, but it's always best to have a handheld light. And that's one thing I do, even though I don't have a handgun yet, I do practice with a hand flashlight because, with concealed carry and all that, most likely you're going to need that flashlight a lot more than a handgun. If it's dark outside or something, I'd like to not shine a handgun light in somebody's face when I could have had a handheld light when it's someone who's not a threat or anything, because that's some serious issues you can come into with that.
Yeah, that's true. I have one light that's on a gun. It's just the one, and it's an old light, but it's only 600 lumens. But that's plenty. I mean, in that opening video, that's my old light, and it. So if you come into a room, it's enough light where you don't have to point it directly at something to see what it is. You can be at low ready, and it'll still provide plenty enough light to see what's in the room. If for people that choose to have lights on their handguns.
Yeah, just my personal opinion. If I had to pick between having a light on in my hand or on my gun, I prefer a handheld light just because you can do way more with it.
Yeah.
especially non-emergency situations or anything like that. A flashlight is super useful.
So, is there, as we're kind of coming up to the 1 hour mark, is there stuff that either of you want to bring up that we haven't covered that I didn't think of that might be helpful to somebody else with a disability?
Well, like gun websites was saying, carrying a gun to give to companion, sort of having an extra in case someone's with you. A lot of that would depend on who it is. You have to know who it is, know their skill level, their how comfortable they are with a gun, what their problems may be, because you and me might be able to fire a J-frame perfectly fine, but hand it to my uncle, he might hit, he'd be lucky to hit the barn from the inside. But then on the ability side of that, I can't rack a Glock 26. I can't grab onto it enough. It's too big and chunky. I can't get enough torque on it. So if someone hand me a Glock 26, it's going to have to be loaded already.
So you would probably have trouble with the CZ or any of the CZ clones also.
Oh yeah, for years I was like, ooh, this CZ looks nice, but I go to rack one, it's like there's not enough room for me to wrap my hand around on top of it, and I can slingshot them all right. But if it was a situation where I was injured or something, that gun is not getting racked.
Oh, there is for Glocks. There is I think Glocks, a back plate that has two little wings that extend out on the sides to give you something to grip onto. I just thought about that. It does make it a little wider, but for someone that with a little grip strength, that might help. I don't know. Have you seen those or tried those?
I'm sure they help some people, but like the smaller charging handles are difficult for me. Like the AR-15, I absolutely hate the charging handle on the AR-15. I have such a hard time with it. Most people prefer the manual of arms of an AR over an AK, but just because the AK has humongous controls on it, I can actually run it without fumbling or dropping stuff.
Have you tried some of the bigger ambi charging handles?
I haven't really tried many of the ambi charging handles. Someone gave me one. I said, well, where'd you get it? They said, I got off a Wish. I'm like, yeah, no thanks. I've seen a Wish charging handle snap. I was like, I ain't using that.
Barbecue, any thoughts that you have?
Well,
Anything we might have missed?
Anything that we might have missed might not pertain exactly to disabilities in a sense, but this is something that I've actually thought of in the last week or so. I've been having some really bad shoulder issues again, and I'm actually wondering if I'm going to have shoulder surgery. And if that happens, it's on my strong side. How many people out there have a holster for their weak side for their EDC and practice with it? Even if you don't take it out in public, just wear it around the house and do dry fire practice, etc. If you're, gonna be down an arm.
Well, I think it's always important to practice for contingencies like that, even if it's just I might hurt the arm in the middle of a scuffle or something like that. But I was talking to my grandfather the other day, and he made a good point to me. He said, your right arm isn't going to last forever. You need to start learning how to do stuff with your left arm. So it's always nice to at least try things with your non-dominant hand. Try learning to write, shoot, whatever, just in case you break your arm for something unrelated, or doesn't even have to be disability related, from anything biological or chronic.
That's something that, yeah, I have not practiced drawing with my left hand. I'll practice shooting at the range, but not drawing with my left hand. That's
Yeah, same here. Yeah, whenever I go to the range, I just shoot left hand. I mean, literally, my uncle and I, we would have competitions with each other. Who could shoot the tightest group, or depending where we're at, we might put down small box of ammo. Like personal defense ammo. Put it out at 25 yards. See who could shoot it weak hand. And so practicing shooting part, I was like, oh yeah, I got that down. Never once did I think, oh, what about having to carry weak-handed for some reason? Because it's not even enough just to practice drawing with that left hand. If you're gonna have to go get a new holster, what if the holsters are on back order? Now you got to find a holster that's just gonna suffice for a couple months, maybe. Still a couple months, you want to have a good holster. So, might be something to look into and make sure you have in the arsenal just in case.
yeah, and if you get a second holster for your left hand, you could probably do like a cross draw, so you don't change where you carry. And I don't know.
I thought about a cross draw also.
Another idea for carrying, especially if you have limited arm movement and stuff, is fanny pack. Or I don't know what they're called anymore. I don't think fanny pack is politically correct anymore, but
I call it a fanny pack. I still carry one whenever I'm in gym shorts and don't feel like. Sorry, I'm talking into my Powerade bottle. Whenever I don't feel like putting on a pair of jeans or jean shorts and I just want to wear a pair of gym shorts, I'm like, all right, concealed carry fanny pack it is today.
But yeah, the fanny pack, or even the ones that are made especially as a fanny pack holster, they're great because you get a lot of the benefits of open carry, comfort, and being able to carry something bigger, and it's still concealed. And also, the way those straps are, you can carry it 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, wherever you want. You can carry it cross-body, across your chest, or under your arm. Put it just about anywhere you want. They're pretty nice. But you have the downside of not looking as fashionable.
I've never carried in a fanny pack. I knew a guy that did way back before fanny packs. There was a concealed carry fanny packs. Yeah, and the one complaint he had was his gun would fall out of it. So I would say you're probably good with a one specifically designed to be a concealed carry fanny pack.
Oh yeah, definitely. I recommend getting, a J-frame fanny pack. That way it can fit a few different J-frames in case you want to carry your ultralight that day or whatever. Also, if you don't have one specifically designed to be a holster, Never Enough Ammo introduced me to the, have you seen those little trigger guards on a string?
Yeah. I forget what they're called.
I can't for the life of me remember what they're called, but it's just a little cover for the trigger guard. You stitch the string to the inside of your jacket pocket or fanny pack. You just pull the gun out and the cover comes off.
Yeah, it's a little Kydex, that piece that covers your trigger, and then, like Taylor said, you just wrap your string around your belt, so when you pull the gun out, um, it pops right off. And I guess it's minimalist way to carry.
Baron says it's the Mick holster. He put a link
Mick
in the chat
holster.
for it.
So, if I may, Foss, I'd like to touch on something else real quick.
Yeah,
More
go
of
ahead.
a word of wisdom or advice, I guess you could say. If you are a person with a disability, don't stop carrying. When I lost my vision, I stopped carrying for a year, and I listened to a lot of people saying, "How are you going to carry? That's going to be a liability. You're going to do this. You're going to do that." So, first issue was I was listening to a lot of people that didn't know what the heck they were talking about in the first place. Second was I was worried about my situational awareness, things like that, and I lost confidence in my ability to carry. Just know that there are people out there that have your disability and they are carrying each and every day, and it might take some hunting to find those individuals, but if they can do it, you can do it. Just use some critical thinking. Don't let naysayers discourage you. Don't discourage yourself. Luckily, in that year that I stopped carrying, nothing bad happened, but it would have been very regretful for me if something had.
I'd like to expand on that. Like we were talking about earlier, a lot of times you look online on YouTube or forums or things, it's hard to find a lot of videos on coping on carrying with disability. Coping on carrying a gun with certain disabilities. I think those of us here that are confident enough to make a video or even a whole channel should start working on that. I was planning on doing an AR-15 build guide for people with just different issues. I know you have a lot harder than I do with vision, but I have astigmatism. So there's a lot of weapon sights that I just cannot use. And for me specifically with strength issues, a lot of rifles, they're going to have to be lighter. But when you make something lighter, you have the trade-off. Newton's laws, it's going to recoil more. So you have to try and find that balance between it being fun to shoot or bearable to shoot and being able to actually carry it, because the most important thing is having one.
Yeah, and I would say, even if you end up with a disability and don't feel comfortable carrying, still go out and shoot. It's still fun. So either of you want to plug anything before we close
I'd
her
like
out here?
to plug DM Foss. Great dude. I'd like to thank you for having me on. I don't remember. Do you have a Patreon?
No.
No. Darn.
Nope.
You should get one. That way I can be like, go check out DM Foss's Patreon. But no, really, he is an absolutely awesome guy. One of the most genuine people I have gotten to know from YouTube and whatnot. So share this around. That way he gets more exposure, gets more people checking him out, because he 100% deserves it.
I appreciate it, and you're earning your money. So, anything else you'd like to plug? And there's links to Guns Barbecue and Wheeled and Well Armed, who wasn't able to make it. Links to their channels in the description. Slowpoke Taylor isn't doing videos yet. Hopefully, at some point they will. A lot of knowledge in that head there. Be nice if they'd share it.
Well, I'm definitely planning on working on setting video up. It's going to be a while. I gaff like Joe Biden trying to say anything simple, but I'll eventually get things set up.
Hopefully you do. And don't worry about the gas. Mine are... there's a lot of editing that happens. But
In your video on Instagram today, I was really disappointed you didn't stomp the groin.
well, that's my kid. I thought I'd be nice to him.
Well, I guess if you want grandkids, it's probably a good thing.
So thank you to everybody for hanging out with us. And if you watch this in replay, leave a comment, suggestions, or anything you think that we missed. We can keep the conversation going. And I try and always respond. I really like getting the comments. And everybody have a good day.
You still here? It's over. Go home.